Here we have the ManbaOne Bluetooth Controller, and I'm excited to cover this device due to its modern gamer aesthetic, as well as its customization options. Now this device is multi-platform compatible. That being said, I've only tried it with Android and Windows PC, but it is advertised to work with the Nintendo Switch and iOS as well. But if you're wondering, it does state in the advertisement that it doesn't work with Xbox or PlayStation. All things said, let's go ahead and get into it. So here we are with the packaging, and we're going to have a sleeve with ManbaOne branding, as well as the colorway of your controller. Now this controller is available in two colorways. We have the white here, which has a transparent faceplate. It gives this a sci-fi futuristic appearance. And then there's also a black option. The faceplate on that option isn't transparent, but it looks a little bit more cleaner, more minimal if that's your thing. So we can go ahead and slide the sleeve off, and that's going to reveal the box itself. We can open the lid here, and that's going to reveal the inside contents. So we're going to have the controller in a plastic-like bag, as well as a charging dock. And this is really cool because it tells you that this controller is rechargeable and you have a dock included. So if we lift the controller out, we're going to have a wireless adapter underneath, and that allows you to connect the ManbaOne to a Windows PC. Interesting note, this wireless adapter will also store right underneath the charging dock if we take the door off there, if you want to hide it away in a safe place. And then if we lift out this plastic tray, we're going to have product information underneath. We're going to have a USB-C cable, USB-A on the other end to power the charge dock. And then we're going to have some extra joystick parts here, replaceable parts for the joystick if they wear out. Just a nice addition to have there. Now I do want to talk a moment about this cable for the charge dock. Again, this is the white kit here. So interesting enough, the charge cable isn't white. I wish it would have been, just to kind of make everything flow a little more cleaner. But this cable for the charge dock, it's going to be plenty long, and it's going to be great for routing your cables. If you need something really long because the cable needs to go really far, that won't be an issue here. So let's talk more about this controller. I'm going to pull it out of the plastic sleeve here. We have some protection for the thumbsticks there. We could pull that off. And again, this is going to be the white option. Now again, we do have a black option. This is the option I like a little bit more. It just looks a little bit more minimal, a little more clean. But we're going to have the same features here, which we're going to cover a little bit more shortly. But I also want to pull out an Xbox Series XS controller so you can see how similar these units are to this controller. It looks almost spot on. The one difference here will be the Manba units. They obviously have that interactive display. So where you would have the Xbox button and a few other buttons, those have to be moved. And on the Manba units, they are moved to the user face and edge. So there is going to be a small learning curve for that. So overall, when it comes to initial feel and longer term usage, I will say that feel is very similar to that Xbox Series XS controller. Although, and this is just my opinion, it feels like the ManbaOne is a little bit lighter. I'm not really sure why, or maybe if it's just me, but just something that I picked up on. And then we have all the buttons on the top of the controller, which are very similar to the Xbox Series XS controller. They all work in a similar fashion, with the exception being the A, X, Y, B buttons. They are a bit clicky, and they feel like they have a little bit less travel. Now, maybe I need to play with this a little bit longer, but I still kind of prefer the Xbox Series XS controller buttons. They just have a bit more travel, and they're smoother, and just the feel, in my opinion, is a little bit better. Before we move to the underside of the controller, we do have a glossy trim around the interactive display and the user face and edge, which will acquire fingerprints and film, but complements the overall build nicely. And then flipping over the ManbaOne, we're going to have trigger locks. with extra buttons, the charge contacts, and an on-off switch slider. So to power this controller on, unlike the Xbox where you'd press the X button, we just push the slider to the right. And once turned on, this automatically turns on the color interactive display as well as the RGB lighting. And this looks really cool. So let's talk more about this interactive display. It is a 2-inch unit. It isn't touch, but it is color, and it features useful information such as the battery charge, connection status, and all your menus. And the way we navigate will either be through the D-pad or the analog sticks, and the bottom row of buttons that are on the user facing edge. So for example, if we press and hold the home button here, this will bring us into the menu, and we can use the D-pad, we can use the right analog stick or the left analog stick to navigate all of it. And just a little bit more detail about that side RGB lighting. It's going to be a strip with Manba branding. And Manba is kind of an interesting name. I am a big Cyberpunk fan, and for some reason that makes me think of something in Cyberpunk that would have that name. Once again, one of the highlights of the ManbaOne will be customization. We can customize the buttons, the RGB lighting, and also the appearance with some removable parts. Now, we're not going to cover button customization too much here because in my experience, everything worked really well out of the box. I didn't have to play with any of that, but I do want to experiment with it in the future and maybe make a video update if it's worth talking about, or if it's highly requested. So we're going to go through the menus here, just really brief. First, we're going to have the pairing option. Now, again, this does come with a wireless adapter, but you can pair with Bluetooth if you would like, and that just brings you into the Bluetooth pairing screen. And I'll just demonstrate that really quick. Now we're in pairing mode. Now I'm going to go back to that home screen by pressing and holding on the home button, and then we're going to have mode next. And if we go into that menu, this is going to give us our different mode options depending on the device we're trying to connect to. So we're going to have PC, Switch, Android, or iOS. So I'm going to back out of there. Then we're going to have our settings, and if we go into that menu, this is going to present us with button configuration profiles, and where we can also do button customization, I imagine. Again, we're going to skip out on that, but I just wanted to show it to demonstrate that it is possible. So we're going to back out there. And then we're going to have a more option that allows us to select a different language, calibration, or button testing. And that's really nice to see here. Back out one more time, then we're going to have help. And that's going to give us a QR code on the display here that we can scan for the user manual. I think that's really helpful. And I also want to highlight that all of this doesn't require an app or software updates or anything like that. This all just works right out of the box, really user friendly. I'm going to back out here once again. So we're going to actually focus on the RGB lighting. It's very simple here. It's actually in the display option, and that's kind of unusual, but that's where you'll find it. And within the display option, we can adjust the display brightness. Then we can adjust the LED colors of the RGB lighting, and then we could select modes for the RGB lighting. Now, there aren't going to be a lot of modes here. It's very simple. We have breathe, which is selected right now. Then we have close, which is unusually named because that just turns off the RGB lighting. It should have just been titled off. And then we have always on. So there's that option as well. And then we're going to have our LED colors, and we're going to have 8 options here. So we're going to have this rainbow option. Then we're going to have a purple option. Then we're going to have a darker blue. Then we're going to have a lighter blue. Then we're going to have a light green. Then we're going to have a yellow. Then we're going to have an orange. And then we're going to have my favorite, a red. And to select either of those options, you're going to use that bottom row of buttons that are user facing on that edge there. And this is a little bit weird, once again, if I haven't mentioned it before, that you do have to make selections with that row on the bottom on that user facing edge. You don't use A, X, Y, B. They don't allow you to select anything or back out, which I think is a bit unusual, but that's just how the controller is set up. And then once all our changes are made, we can back out of here. And that brings us back to the home screen. So let's talk about the removable faceplate, which is held on by a magnet. We have these slits on the side, which allow us to get a fingernail underneath, and then we can pull it off. And that will expose the underside, I guess you would say. And we're going to do the same thing with the black option, get a fingernail underneath. We can pull up on that, and that's going to expose the underside of that option as well. This is really cool because you can get these faceplates separately and you can interchange them. So I could put the black on the white option here, line that up. And these are magnetized, so they just drop right into place. Nice and easy, no screws or anything like that. And this looks really cool, actually. It's a really nice aesthetic, very modern look. So if you buy both, you can just kind of swap out already. And it looks really cool. In my opinion, it's like, why didn't Xbox come up with something like this? Maybe not even with the display, but the faceplates I think is really cool. But if they made a display version of the Xbox controller and it looks something like this, I think a lot of people would really like it. I think this is really awesome. And then a small side note, we do have those replaceable joysticks. So these do pull off. Now I will say they require a bit of effort, but it is possible in my experimentation. And then we have battery performance, and I use this black one for hours at a time on a charge to play some Cyberpunk and some Mortal Kombat. Didn't have any issues there. And then we have the charge dock. So the controller is going to fit on here nice and easy, just drop into place. It looks really nice too, very nice appearance there. And when you do drop it onto the dock, you do get a chime sound, and there's also a light on the charge dock. It illuminates depending on the charge state of the controller. Really nice. And then just a thing that I noticed from using these controllers, if you take a break from your game and you go do something else and maybe you forgot that you left the controller on, it does automatically turn off or go into a sleep state. Also, when it's on the charge dock, if you leave it on, the RGB lighting goes off and the display also goes off. Unless you move any of the analog sticks or the D-pad or press any of the buttons, it will briefly turn on the display so you can see the charge state of the controller. So overall, these are really cool. I really like them. They're really futuristic. They have a nice gamer aesthetic, and it's got a nice 2-inch display, 2-inch color interactive display, RGB lighting, removable face plates, and replaceable thumbsticks. Overall, I think these are really cool. So that is it for today's content. As always, thanks for watching, and may the universe flow in your favor. And until next time, Leon check-in out.
Yeah.